Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you keep bouncing in and out. What's going on there? Okay, well, you can hear us at least, right? Okay. Mitchell doesn't feel good about his hair today, so he's lying and saying his video doesn't work. I think it looks fine. All right, let's get started here. Hope you enjoyed your break yesterday. Do that again when we can. All right, grammar lesson 11, did last night, that was checked. I will put up a key later. Vocab test 3, that'll drop first thing tomorrow morning. It needs to be completed sometime during the day tomorrow. My suggestion is, of course, do it during the school day, and you will not go running with shrieks of intellectual victory out of the school building and forget about it and get a late grade. I'll drop that key on Saturday morning. I'm gonna keep it on 2 different posts this time. I think that'd be easier. I think maybe I did that last time, and I'll that way I can return the test to you on the original post, and then you can turn the corrections on a different post. Okay, no big deal. Okay, as you probably saw, I did release the results and let you see what you can see about the multiple choice and free response assessment results. So now the multiple choice one, even if you did badly, it didn't affect your grade too much because we had some full credit test grades in there, right? Whereas the FRQ, you know, it did bring some people's grades down significantly, but again, I tried to stress its significance, and And that is one thing that I'm gonna leave as something that is gonna have a significant effect on your grade, because it's something that we really need to learn how to do. And so when we do it, it's gonna matter. Now there'll be 2 or 3 of those second quarter. But for the most part, they look pretty good for a first effort, but there is some pretty specific feedback we can look at on here. Let me go to the multiple choice stuff first. Okay, so this breaks down the actual skills we learned and the average number of points. Now it's kind of a small whole number, so it is maybe not that informative, but in general, what we usually see is around 2/3 correctness on these skills as we go, and that might get closer to 3 as we go. But what I do notice here, overall, it might not be you, but the class for the most part is a little weak on explain the function of narrator or speaker. Okay, where we're trying to identify or describe the narrator or speaker of a test. We're closer to approximately 1 out of 3 rather than 2 out of 3 there. Okay, so that's something we can learn from as we go through doing that with poetry, right? Because we already watched a video 2 days ago, I guess, that was about, actually that was more about character, but character ties in with speaker and point of view, right? Because in poetry, when you're talking about a character, it's often going to be the speaker, because there's not usually going to be a bunch of characters unless it's a purely narrative poem. And most of the ones that we look at might contain some narrative, but they're not like a narrative story poem, right? So it's good we can keep thinking about the people, right, in the story, who's telling the story, and things like that in general. Okay, if you feel like making a note of it, here's the individual questions, right? You can see green is correct and red is incorrect. So it looks like let's see, there's 2 that really stick out. Number 1 and number 11 were the most missed, with at least half, if not more, getting the incorrect answer. But overall, 1, 8 to some degree, 11, and 16 are the questions that the most people miss. Now, if we're in a regular class, I would probably make a point of going over the content of all these, but we just don't have time for that. And if you didn't notice, if you go into any individual question, and you scroll all the way to the bottom, you have to take the trouble to scroll all the way to the bottom. It will not only tell you what the right answer is supposed to be, it gives actually a little kind of a paragraph explanation of why it's the correct answer. It's a pretty thorough system here. It's good. So maybe try to go through that and see if you kind of spot, any trends for yourself. Are you weak on this, or are you actually weak on something else? Plot and structure, does that kind of confuse you, being able to analyze that? You missed 2 questions, 3 questions on that. It's worth looking at. So I just got here, Kinsey. All right, the FRQs. Take a couple steps to get in here. Don't worry, I'm not showing anybody's individual scores. Results. Gonna have to go through a few clicks here. I don't know why. I think that should get it. There we go. Okay. So number 1 was passage 1 was hitting trees with sticks, and passage 2 is elsewhere, right? So hitting trees with sticks. The green, right, means you got the point on the thesis. The claim, I need to start saying claim more. And the red means you didn't. So, over half, but maybe not quite 2/3 of you got that thesis point. On the evidence and commentary here, and on the second one, almost no one didn't get any credit on evidence. You have to be pretty far off to not get any credit. Remember, we asked for 2 pieces of evidence. And once again, here we're kind of split in half as far as some people got 1 point and some people got 2 points. You needed to provide 2 relevant examples that really supported the thesis. Even if your thesis was a little bit off and you didn't quite do what it needed to do, even if you didn't get the point, let's still count evidence if it's contributing towards something that the prompt did indeed ask for, okay? But if you only did 1 and then you kind of generalized, then you only got 1 point, okay? And it looks like about the same pattern on the evidence here too. Hardly anybody didn't get any, and approximately half got 1 and the other half got 2. However, the thesis on elsewhere, not a lot of people got that thesis point. And I think that's a combination of 2 things. I think number 1, you lost track of the several things discussed in the prompt, and you didn't actually answer it by characterizing the setting and its connection maybe to the overall meaning of it. You always, even if the prompt doesn't ask for it, you always want to kind of keep in mind you know, you should be showing understanding of the whole meaning of the work, right? That's implied in all the prompts. So here, you know, over half of you got that. Now, let's talk about the passages one at a time, and I just want to briefly review what the crux of each passage was. So, hitting trees with sticks. You didn't necessarily have to understand the metaphor of taking a stick and hitting a tree, and that the fact that the tree is diseased, and that's maybe kind of an allegory for what's going on with the character. That would be a pretty advanced thing to be able to understand, but that is what's going on there. But the overall crux. Let me stop the share for a sec. Can one of you guys tell me what is initially conceal? What does the point of view initially conceal, but eventually reveal about the character, the speaker who is the character? That she's what? What's going on with her? Plenty of you got it. Somebody tell us. You're afraid to say it now because you think you're going to be wrong. Maybe you haven't looked at the feedback that I gave you. You don't know whether you're right or not. No one can tell us what's going on with this lady. Things seem to be off, and she's insisting that they're not. But eventually, what do we kind of figure out?
She has a bad memory and forgets stuff.
Is that Katrina?
Yeah.
Thank you. She does, just out at the very least, and I think we could probably infer that there's at least some senility going on here, if not like all-out dementia or Alzheimer's. And I don't think it's too much of a leap to use some of those terms, and some of you did. At the very least, senility, right? Like past. I mean, I can be forgetful, right? But that's not me in that story. Some of you can be forgetful, but that's not you in that story. This lady is, you know, there's some detachment, occasional detachment from reality, that she's forgetting whole chunks of what's going on in her life, and that's further evidenced by when what's her name, Natalie, I think the Meals on Wheels lady gets there. You can tell she's trying to be patient with her, right? And you can tell that, you know, she could get frustrated, but she's trying to be patient because the lady doesn't remember what's going on. Okay, so we're inside the mind. It doesn't just, you know, if all you explained in that essay was it shows us her inside thoughts. I mean, that's always what first person point of view does, right? You got to take it more than that. And then you might say her frustrations and her confusion. That's a little closer, right? And if you really got into that, then you use the word forget things, and you might have gotten the thesis point. But what you really need to get at was it's slowly revealed through that point of view, especially when the other character comes in, that she's got some kind of memory loss going on. So that's what needed to be going on there. Now, fewer of you got the thesis in the second one. It was a little bit more challenging, but it needed to deal with setting. Free breakfast, pause. Pour my coffee, get my banana, so I don't feel left out. I almost rolled my desk chair back with my headset still wired to me. That would have been funny. Just barely. Just barely. I can eat that, I think. You guys at home, you might feel left out of this. You know what these people are doing? They're eating like a roll of donuts every morning. Wonder what's going to happen there. COVID-15. All right. So in the second one, the difficult part of the second one is it's a little bit surreal, right? Kind of limited third person. The girl's sneaking out. It seems like she's sneaking out. It's like a situation where she doesn't want to get caught. She might be in trouble, but it's really not. It's something she does all the time. It's beautiful out there. She connects to nature through the setting, right? The question is about setting, and something about that setting allows her to connect with whom and who is in what state, actually? Can you answer that? Who's she able to connect with, and where is that person really?
She's connecting with, I think it was her twin, and I think they passed away.
Exactly. Good job, Teal. Tomasito, I think was his name. At first, you can't really tell what's going on, right? But she's connecting. It's like she's even if it's only in her imagination, which you can infer that's fine, right? But somehow she's at peace, and on some level, and feels a connection to him somehow, whether it's really there or not, through the nature and the beauty and the comfort of home that is the setting. And that's what we need to get at. And so if you lost track of talking about the word set, you can't have a prompt about setting and then never use the word setting in the prompt. You need to use what we call echo words from the prompt to make it clear that that's what you're talking about. So some of us just miss the fact that that the twin has passed away, and that's going to happen sometimes, you know. But remember, passages are complex, right? It's not just that she goes outside and the setting is pretty, and then she goes back inside and her dad didn't catch her outside. If that's all that's there, I mean, where's the complexity, right? Some of you interpret it that it really was a dream, and she's waking up and the father's there and she thinks she's been outside. That was kind of interesting. I don't read it that way, but I don't think I can't say that that's not what's happening. And you can make a good argument for that. But the whole point is it isn't really real, right? Or, I mean, depending on how you want to look at it, but that's what's going on. It's a connection with the twin brother. You can tell that that she has a close relationship with the father, and it's not like a situation where she's gonna get caught and be in trouble. Even if technically she's not supposed to be outside before the sun's up. Okay, that's that. We need to move along here. Oh, yeah, Piranha books. Got them with you. I do something different today. Let you guys discuss something together. Plus, I want to practice using breakout rooms. So I've already checked that you did your stuff. If you could access your responses right now, have those ready. And then I would like to, I don't need to share. And then I'm going to put you into randomly produced breakout rooms. And I would like for you guys to talk through those 4 questions. Just to kind of touch base on it though. We feel like we understand. Let's talk about just the general structure and narrative of what happens in Dulce et Decorum. As this is a really horrifying poem, isn't it? There's a couple of war poems that we're going to do here. I think they've kind of arranged them purposefully. Let me just tell you, and hopefully you got at least this much. So it's comes in first person, right? You can tell by the pronouns. And the speaker is basically relating an incident in which he and his fellow soldiers, which would have been in World War I. You see Wilfred Owen, he was one of what was called the war poets, relating an experience that he had. And so World War I was about trench warfare, mustard gas, really horrifying things like that, right? So one of the guys in the creative description of them, you know, kind of marching through this, you know, muddy countryside or whatever, a gas bomb drops, and one of them does not get his gas mask on in time, right? And he goes through this horrible, you know, graphically depicted experience of, you know, dying and choking to death, and it's really awful, right? And then there's kind of a transition in which we learn that he kind of still sees this, right? And that leads into some kind of conclusion and making a statement about the nature of war, that if you give us a note about what that phrase means. Yes, in the question. Okay. It is sweet and becoming to die for one's country. And he kind of makes a statement about that. And I don't want to characterize that statement because you guys should talk about that. Okay, so I'm going to put you in breakout rooms and I'm going to pop in and out of them. Okay, so let's make sure and hang around until I, you know, kind of see you and see if you have any additional questions. And let's kind of play with, I think you can chat out to me from a breakout room. So if anybody wants to do it just to test it, or if you have one of these questions that you guys just don't really necessarily feel like you got, okay, then let me know. Okay. Breakout rooms, here we go. Sign automatically, and we'll do 4 breakout rooms. Try that. All right, go to it. Got an invite there, Jordan? Okay. Yeah. This is going to be weird cohort wise. I didn't even think about it, but. It would help to have your books out to look at the questions.
You want to move on to the second question? Does anyone else have anything to say? Elements.
Wait, you can go. You
Go ahead. Okay. I'm just going to read it out. List the elements of the poems that seem not beautiful and therefore unpoetic. Are there any elements of beauty in this poem?
So when like my talk, you guys ignore me, but you want me to talk. Let's see how it is.
Let's hear from you,
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just say it. So number one. Oh, where's this at? It's in like the poem's comment on the statement. I said that like it doesn't agree with it because the story's about
Any big remaining questions?
Number one was a little confusing. I don't think we really like know exactly what it's asking per se. I didn't really have a good answer for that one.
It's ironic. It's bitterly ironic. Because what he's relating about his war experience is that the last thing he felt like seeing someone die for one's country was that it was sweet and becoming. It was nightmarish, right? I don't want to overstate and think that that means that the poet means he's a pacifist or anything. He was a soldier, right? But he's kind of relating his bitterness over maybe how war was idealized to them as young men, and they go over there and it's like this living nightmare, even if it was for a good cause, and then maybe we shouldn't over romanticize it when this is what's really going on. Make sense? You guys got to understand the grammar thing. What he means by like plural pronouns, like when he switches in that last stanza there, and all of a sudden he starts saying you.
Isn't it just like putting you in the position of like being there?
Yeah. Like if you were here, right? If you saw this, what I just described, then you wouldn't say that, right? Okay, I'm gonna try to visit the last group here. I know I'm kind of late here. Have you guys already finished up or? Okay.
Yeah, we already kind of.
Did you understand like how the expression is kind of meant ironically, like the last thing that he felt like it was like for that guy to die that way was that it is sweet and becoming to die for one's country. You know, he's kind of relating his bitterness over how maybe war was idealized to them. Here's what it's really like, is what he's saying. And then with the whole grammar thing, when he's saying you, he's saying if you were there and you saw what I saw, this is how you would feel too.
Mm,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I got to go to my next session. Sorry to be a hurry. Thanks for hanging around. Bye.